Hi and welcome to Danklord vs. Games. My name is Kevin and today we'll be taking a look at Sundered, a game made by Thunder Lotus Games, funded as a Kickstarter project. You're playing as a woman named Eshe that finds herself in a research facility abandoned by a faction known as the Valkyries. In the underground facility, you'll encounter an ancient artifact that starts possessing Eshe to delve deeper into the caves, and it's up to you to either gain or resist the temptation of power. You'll have to fight your way through hordes of Eldritch creatures in order to progress deeper, and it quickly becomes apparent that there's a few challenges ahead of you that you need to deal with. The story is delivered through narrations done by the ancient artifact in a made-up or foreign language. Despite being quite thin on overall story, it succeeded to keep my interest throughout the 6 to 8 hour experience I had with the game. Not because of the story, but because of everything else. It succeeded to pique my interest because the gameplay, visuals, and combat felt very well polished. The characters, the areas, and effects are all hand-drawn frame by frame, and it was definitely the first positive thing I took note of. We've come to a point where games can achieve an incredibly realistic and detailed environment. With the introduction of VR and insanely powerful graphics cards, it's getting harder and harder to distinguish reality from digital creations, thus finally making graphical fidelity less of a selling point these days. The combat seemed very stripped out at first. There's no real punishment for button mashing like you might be accustomed to, and there's really only one attack button to press. There are no combos to pull off, and the combat is quite forgiving in general. Only later in the game do you realize that you can combine abilities and tech with your sword to add some optional finesse to the game, but note that it's optional. Dying is all part of the game. Unlike Dark Souls, you don't lose your souls or experience on death unless retrieved. You merely reset to the main hub of the game, where all the levels branch out into 3 main areas, and you get to start over with whatever knowledge you've gathered. Due to the fact that you don't lose anything on death, it means you progressively get stronger and stronger every time you're sent back to the main hub. The skill tree is large enough for what the game is, but most traits are minor traits and quite uninteresting at first glance. The minor traits merely act as a resource dumpster, so you can waste points to get whatever it is you actually want in the end. The map is simple to understand, and it's very fortunate that it is, because you'll be looking at it a lot. Each area is represented as squares or rectangles with several entrances and exits. The larger squares of the map are areas where content randomly generates, and nothing really feels the same each time you pass through the area. Luckily, the map offers a few shortcuts for you to unlock depending on what skills you've uncovered, and every area you've explored remains discovered on the map until you start an entirely new game. Each area is connected one way or another, and all 3 levels act as one, with loading screens in between. Loading screens which actually took quite some time to get through. At different times, the game throws hordes of monsters at you, and it manages to catch you off guard almost every time. It started to annoy me whenever I wanted a little bit of time to check out the map. Sometimes you have minutes to breathe and explore, but for the most time you'll be on your guard, waiting for the next attack. If you happen to find yourself in a room with endless horde mode, peace and quiet is nothing you'll come across, but at least you get the chance to prepare yourself. This brings me to one of the primary complaints I had about this game. It's really hard to see where you are whenever there are dozens of monsters and projectiles all over the screen. Boss fights are even worse as the cameras zoom out in order to give you a proper view of the area. It makes your character even smaller, and I found myself wondering where the heck I was several times. Yeah, Eshe wears a white coat to differentiate her from all the monsters, but it really didn't help me in most cases, especially not when the screen looks like this. It pulls off the Metroidvania theme very nicely, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. I love how games like Sundered manage to make you feel underpowered for the task at hand, only to find yourself succeeding a few tries later. Trial and error is very much part of the game, the same way death is. Nothing is truly impossible, and the delicate balance made the game incredibly enjoyable to me. The sheer size of the first boss encounter made me think that I had stumbled upon the last boss of the game, and holy hell was I wrong. The option to make the game harder depending on choices is very much appreciated as well. Each boss drops shards that you either use to corrupt your existing abilities or not, making the game a little bit harder on demand. As a final note, my only real 2 wishes would be Have the dialogue spoken in English, as I don't want to be forced to read at the same time as I'm trying to survive, and add the option to remove screen shake, as it ended up being incredibly overwhelming to both my eyes and brain, and I'm sure others would feel the same way. Despite that, this really is the first game that I'm going to recommend wholeheartedly. There are ups and downs, but the game managed to stay on top for the most part. I did rage a few times, but it only encouraged me to do better the next time. I cheered myself on as I defeated my first boss, and that's something only Dark Souls has managed to pull off, until now. The game only locked up once during my playthrough, but magically managed to come back to life even after the Windows checking for problems bar came up. I'm certain there are other games similar to this one, Hollow Knight being one of them, and I guess I know exactly where to look next. I'm not sure what made me pick this game up, but I'm really glad I did, and my point is, you should too. Once again, my name is Kevin, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed my review of Sundered, be sure to leave a thumbs up. If you're in need of a hug, subscribe and I got you covered. Bye.